Okay. Round two. You know, it's funny when you feel like you just have everything kind of, you've figured out your routine. So that we've done two of these already. The second one flowed better than the first because we kind of knew what we were doing. And now I feel like the third one, we're just like hitting all kinds of bumps in the road. So there she is. Perfect. So today we're going, hi, oh my gosh. Wow. So if you're just joining us, you have not missed a thing, but a crap ton of technical issues. So without further ado, sorry, Kristen, I'm not sure what was going on. We are in our second week of our Food Freedom Challenge. So thank you so much for joining us. I know because you're part of this group, you're a little bit of guilt by association in participating in this challenge. One of the challenges in doing it this way is that kind of the accountability in sharing and I feel like this volume is not quite right in sharing, you know, what's going on in your world around your, in particular, rule. It makes it maybe a little bit harder to share. So please feel free to comment below. We're here to help. And sometimes when that is a broad paintbrush stroke, it's like, you almost don't even ask for help. And so I want to make sure that this is informative for you, that you're able to take advantage of it. So please don't hesitate. We're going to talk through a couple of scenarios because our goal really today is to apply your food rule with some special events that maybe you have coming up. I know Kristen has a few to share. I'm not sure if anyone has messaged in. I haven't gotten any, but it doesn't mean that there aren't historically, I mean, it can be pretty consistent in how things happen when we've got events coming up, whether it's a wedding or maybe it's a long weekend away or something along those lines. So I'm going to have Kristen kind of share some of the things that she has either worked with if you've emailed her or messaged her, or maybe a previous client, Kristen, that you've worked with that have had some challenges. And I have a couple of things that I would like to share too, but let's start with kind of our focus today around special events and our rules.
Awesome. Well, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I was trying to be like better than last time and use my computer with a microphone, and I think I just mucked it all up. So,
best laid plans.
But yeah, so the whole point of this session today, we talked about setting food rules last week. And by the way, if you haven't worked through the worksheet from last week yet, it's not too late. You can jump in anytime and start working on creating rules. Go back and watch the video from last week. Reach out, ask questions. This isn't a challenge where you're behind or not. This is a challenge for our brains, so you can jump in still. But we talked last week about setting food rules with the intention that they're rules that we can live by. And a lot of times the first thing that our lizard brain says is, well, that doesn't work because I have vacation coming up, or that doesn't work because I have bunko nights once a month, and what about that? Or I can't possibly live by that rule because my daughter's getting married and there's going to be all of these things. So the first squeal we hear out of that lizard often is, this doesn't work forever, so you may as well not implement. So it's important to understand that your rules are for the rest of your life. And you say that is a little bit of a trick to quiet down this lizard brain to say, no, this is the rule for the rest of my life. And if something comes up, we will deal with that separately. So for the average routine life of mine, I can do this rule. And so that's how you confront that lie from that lizard brain. But then, okay, so now we have these anomalies coming up. How do we address those? So the first thing to do is to plan, to think about, okay, what's coming up? Is it a vacation? Is it a long weekend? What is it? And what are potentially some of those challenges, or how is my food rule not going to fit? And often you can find a way to tweak your food rule or tweak your plans so that the food rule does work. So for example, if you have a rule that you only have 2 desserts in a week and you're going on a long weekend trip, well, there's no reason why you can't just save your desserts up for the week and have them only on your trip. If you can make your regular rule fit, make it fit if that's reasonable. But the whole idea of planning ahead is to also be realistic and say, am I going to have 25 dessert opportunities, and am I going to feel completely and totally frustrated that I'm only having 2? And is that realistic for this trip? And so we're going to work through kind of the steps to creating a rule around a special occasion. So first of all, you don't want to plan out too far, because this is what happens. So say your rule is I don't eat donuts except once a month. Like, that's my rule with my donut parties. If I am thinking about a trip in 2 months and I'm thinking I'm having all the donuts I want on that trip, now all I'm doing is creating this anticipation of when I can binge on those donuts. Instead of learning how to live with donuts and living in freedom with donuts and feeling in control, I've just deferred the donut incident, and I'm saying, hey, lizard brain, you get free reign in 2 months. And now every day I'm white knuckling it, waiting for my opportunity. And that is not the point. The point is to say, okay, when that vacation comes up, I'm going to be aware of what donut opportunities there are. If I can just save my monthly donut party for that trip, or do I want to create something different? But I never say there's no rule, because that just puts me right back to where I'm not in control again. And the whole point of this isn't weight loss or anything about the scale. It's about restructuring our relationships with our food decisions, and never saying, oh, screw it, I have no rules on this trip or this weekend or this occasion. You always want to have a rule. And it doesn't have to be restrictive and hard and awful, but it still exists and you still live by it. My rule could be I have 1 donut with every meal on my vacation. That's still a rule. It's still a guideline. I'm still not beating my face in donuts, hoarding them and binging them and eating 4 more on the plane because it's my last chance to have donuts before I go. That eliminates all of that craziness and still leaves me in control. Even though I might have 15 donuts, they're still planned. They're still in a structure. I decided, not a craving and an urge back here. So remember, the whole reason why food feels bad after we eat it is because this part of our brain made us do it. This part of our brain didn't decide to do it. That's where the bad feelings around food come from. So, and Dina, did you say you don't have anything coming up, any trips coming up with the scenario?
I know. I was racking my brain, and I'm like, gosh, am I really lame or what? And but I also have I do have some like grad parties, which originally might be a challenge, just because you don't have as much control over, you know, what's being served, or if I'm going to maybe have, you know, some sort of a hindrance around what's there.
Yes, and that's a really great thing to talk through too. Social situations, weddings, bachelorette parties, grad parties, christenings, funerals. I mean, anytime you're at an event where you aren't deciding what food there is, and there might be something out of the ordinary and something delicious and something you otherwise wouldn't get to have. That's another piece too, is we talk about deprivation and wanting to live your life. Often it's important to have a rule that is specifically there for opportunities to have something you never otherwise get to have. What if you really love those little cream cheese, weird mint things that your grandma makes in a little mold that look like flowers? And you haven't had one in 10 years and they're at a wedding and you don't eat sugar normally. Well, it'd be helpful to have a rule to say, if I see something that I know I don't have an opportunity to have in my regular life, I can have a serving or a bite or a taste. So same thing, you go to a grad party, they have your favorite queso dip from Acapulco. I have a rule that says, if I'm at an event and there's something there that I ordinarily do not get to have, like, so if it's chocolate cake is not rare. So I don't need chocolate cake at a grad party. Just don't. I can have that anytime I want. But queso dip from Acapulco that's in a big vat looking at me, that's something I can't just make and I wouldn't go buy it. So I'm going to have that. And that'll be the only thing that I have other than, you know, healthy foods I would normally have. But that rule for me exists for exactly those situations. Other examples of rules, say you go to happy hour after work, maybe you have a happy hour rule. Every happy hour I get to have one drink and I get to share an appetizer with the group. And so you don't have to stress about happy hour. You don't have to factor that into your other rules. It's a happy hour rule. If that is something that's a common thing for you. Grad party season. You can have a grad party season rule that's just for grad parties. At grad parties, I eat before I go and I use the smallest plate and I have 2 bites of 3 things. Something simple like that, that you don't have to stress, you don't have to be the only one not eating, and you don't have to walk away feeling like, oh, wow, what did I just do? You're socializing, you're cramming food in. So think of what's really important to you in those situations and come up with a parameter that it will fit in that makes you feel really good and takes that stress away from, sometimes people don't want to go. Say, I don't want to go, I don't want to have to deal with it. And that's sad.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I think there are just a lot of social pressures around food in general when we're at an event, and maybe because you are being a little bit more selective in your maybe food choices, you get questions about what's on your plate and are you diet, you know, all of these things start to trigger conversation that that you're trying to avoid as much as having to make decisions around the food.
Yeah. And those conversations can be, I mean, they can be a challenge. A lot of people aren't kind. I found that a lot of people are not kind. And a really important thing to remember is when you're talking to somebody, and not to be unkind or rude, but this is really what's going on, and it's the bottom line. When you're talking to somebody who doesn't have control over their food, and they're struggling and they've showed up at that party and they're going balls to the walls eating whatever they want, and there's a part of them that doesn't feel good about that, and when they see someone else making good choices, they themselves don't hate you, don't wish ill will for you, but the lizard brain in their head does not like seeing you caging your lizard brain. So I always say, and this sounds a little crass, but I don't know a nicer way to say it, but the fat person in that person doesn't like the thin person in you. That's like the way it goes. Or the out of control part of them just doesn't like the in control part of you. And it's not that Dina doesn't like Kristen. It's that part of their brain that is running the show is winning, and that feels crappy to this part of them. So it's not personal, but it's a way for other people to kind of comfort themselves by kind of pointing out or putting you on the spot or trying to maybe add some shame or something like that. It's never personal, and it's never about you and them. It's about this struggle and the stuff that's going on in our heads. And so you can show up and be a leader in your choices, be a food leader, to say there's a mountain of cookies over there and I'm choosing watermelon and I'm choosing some vegetables and I'm having fun anyway, and I don't have to eat those things to have fun. Or maybe you say, yeah, I'm having half a cookie, it's really good, that's it, that's enough for me. Whatever it is, to be able to demonstrate that you're having a good time, enjoying yourself, making good choices, that it's possible, is important. There might be someone looking across the room to say, oh geez, they're doing it, I could do that. Why don't I do that? Why don't I start doing that? But those interactions are still really telling when you're in control and other people, if they're giving you nasty comments. Now, they might not give you nasty comments. They might just, say, hey, did you see that special cake from whatever bakery? It's really awesome. You've got to try it. A lot of times that's all they're doing too, and they just want you to share that experience. And then it's hard because what do you say? So, you don't have to be completely transparent. You don't have to say, I'm not eating that. You can just say, oh, it is so beautiful. And you can talk about what it looks like without eating it. Or say, oh, I've had that before. It is really delicious. You don't have to eat it to share the joy of that food. You can simply share in the joy that it's there and that it's beautiful and that it's wonderful and people are enjoying it without actually eating.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could use a food rule to say, you know what, I'm going to taste it. I can taste extraordinary things that never come across my path. So there are a lot of options there. I would say pre-plan some of those things. Think ahead. Who's going to be there? When my sister is at something, my sister and I have a very difficult relationship with food. And so I pre-think of very nice, very calm things that I can say in response to those comments and the food pressure. And then I don't have to stress about it. So it's a valid point.
Yeah, I appreciate you talking through that, Kristen, because I think that we can all relate because we've probably, and I can speak for myself, been on both sides of that. I've been the person with the rule, and then I've also been in places of my life where I do want to just eat all the crap and I want my friend to enjoy and all the crap with me. And
Yeah.
it's not that I'm not loving her as much as I did before, but if she's not engaging with me, it is harder. So I think we've all kind of been on both sides of the fence. So I feel like you kind of explaining that just helps us create some separation in our mind about, okay, that makes sense. I have been there before. I have done that. And I get why now. So sometimes it's just unweaving the weave and breaking it down a little bit. So I appreciate you sharing. I think too, like around the special circumstances. So I do have a couple graduation parties, but I'm less worried about those, I think, just because I don't know how much food is being served anymore with all of the limitations and so forth. But I thought it was interesting, one of the things you said, Kristen, too, about making the decision with this part of your brain versus the lizard part of your brain. Because one of my rules right now, and this is just strictly because I'm trying to watch how much sugar I'm taking in, and I'm trying to make some kind of lifestyle changes in my diet, and it is really around sugar. And so one of my pieces right now is just avoiding ice cream. I mean, that is typically one of my downfalls. And the other day I was shopping with Jaden, and there was an ice cream, homemade ice cream. I mean, in the little trailer, you know, there's all the food trucks that are around the Twin Cities right now. And there was a homemade ice cream truck. And I thought it was really interesting because even though that is my rule, I was in a very unique situation. I was with my daughter. It just felt kind of like if I wouldn't have had the ice cream, the day wouldn't have been complete. And I also, sorry, didn't feel guilty about having and enjoying the ice cream because I realized I did decide with this part of my brain, and I haven't needed to have ice cream. It didn't trigger any like now I need to have ice cream every night. It was like a very circumstantial situation, and I decided that I was going to get it. I was going to get the one scoop. I was going to enjoy the hell out of it, and then I was going to be done with it. And that's a very different experience than I've had in the past. A lot of times when I don't want to say break a rule, but put a special circumstance around a rule, that it just opens kind of that floodgate. So I appreciate kind of helping me realize why I enjoyed that so much and why it didn't follow me home, and it didn't mean go get a half a gallon and put it in your fridge.
So now, if you've been by yourself and you had seen the food truck with the ice cream, would your response have been different as far as if you had it or not?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have had it. It wouldn't have felt, I guess, like a special scenario. I think it was very circumstantial because we kind of on a whim went shopping and driving, and we were having an awesome day.
Yeah, so the point of that experience then, and this is what special treats can do, and the reason why we don't often say we are never having treats or out of the ordinary things, because the food became less the focus and the experience and the relationship was number one. And so so if you were to tweak your ice cream rule, if you felt like you needed to, which in this case, I would say you wouldn't even have to because you were in control. It didn't trigger you to go and eat all the ice cream. But a lot of times noticing that will say, okay, so I, for the rest of my life, can imagine that I will only eat ice cream when I'm with someone I love and it's a outside of my home special experience. And then you can say, that's awesome. Those ice cream experiences will always be elevated, emotional, connective moments now. And that is much different than having the ice cream calling from you from the fridge and you just can't stop eating it because that's the lizard brain. But what you did was truly, Dina wanted ice cream with her daughter and it was beautiful. And you don't feel bad after you ate it. You didn't feel bad while you ate it. And that is the beautiful thing about ice cream with someone you love. And it's awesome when you start listening to those voices to know, like, wow, this feels different than the ice cream is still in the freezer and you're just like consumed by it back here. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. And it was, it's just fun to like go through this process with you and, you know, be able to connect some dots that you feel like you're never going to be able to get past something, or this is always going to be a thing. And just thinking about things differently. That's what I love about kind of this challenge, is that it's so mentally freeing, I guess, and not so restrictive in, you know, what, when, who, how, where types of things. And it's kind of coming from a place of judgment-free self-love, like trying to understand the things that maybe have been plaguing you for your entire life.
Yes. Yeah. Really. And we're also different. And that's why there's a billion different diets and none of them work globally for everyone. I mean, we all have our own history with food, our own emotional triggers with food. And this challenge is about working with what works with you with food instead of trying to always fight the current to say, I can never have that, but I always want it. To be able to say, okay, why do you want it? When do you want it? Let's just calm down. And and it is free. That's the thing. It's like discipline and rules around things equals freedom, because you no longer have to be at war. It's kind of like you have it all figured out. You have a plan. Mm-hmm. And then when something comes up, you kind of know what to do. Like you were able to stop and think like, oh, okay, how does this feel? What do I want? Instead of chasing an urge or a feeling and then not knowing why you did that. So it is really freeing, which is very exciting. I mean, this literally changed my life. Like I told before, I've dieted, I've lost weight, I had weight loss surgery, all these things, but I never had peace in my brain. It was just always still fighting, struggling, and this is finally freedom. And it's exhilarating.
No, I think so too. So I feel like, you know, with a lot of other challenges, and they all have a place in time, right, where it's appropriate to be talking a little bit more about the actual food. But I love the whole just shift to the mindset, because that's really what it comes down to, is understanding the parts of the brain that you're going to listen to and the parts of the brain that you're not going to listen to, and trying to differentiate. And that just makes life and the reality of how you operate around food and nutrition and what it means for you, lifelong learnings that not only that you get to experience, but that you can share. I mean, everything that I am learning, I'm continuously like, Jaden, these are like huge nuggets. I'm 46 and I'm just learning some of these things. So it's huge that you're 15 and you can already start to make different choices and have a better understanding.
Yeah, and I mean, this is truly something as we as adults implement and start to learn and have these little successes. I mean, this is something that we can teach our kids at a young age, because it's something that we're just not aware is happening. And it's happening all the time in all areas of our life. Randy's daughter is 7, and when she comes in the kitchen and sees food and wants to eat it, she's not hungry. She just sees it and wants to eat it. And so even at 7, I can say, are you hungry? Or does that just look really good? Because if it looks really good, let's have it with our dinner later. Oh, okay. You know, and so then later I can say, like, do you understand, like, when you see it how you want it? even if you're not hungry, and start to just teach her, like, just because you see it, you're going to want it. But we stop and say, am I hungry? And just start teaching from a very young age, like, are you hungry or do you just want it? And when you can start these things with our kids at a young age, I wish to God that I had some kind of instinct at 7 or 10 or 15 that what was going on. Because I was just consumed and controlled by everything except me. I don't even know who I was. So it is so awesome. And teenagers too, I mean, their brains are being bombarded with hormones. So hard to know which way is up. So it can be very empowering to teach them to tune into their own true self. So
yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
And with homework.
Yeah. It's about 10:35. I don't see any major questions coming in. Is there anything else, Kristen, that you would like to share, or food for thought for the week for people to be working on with their goals, or with their, I'm sorry, their rule?
So I would say that if you filled out the sheet and you've worked on a rule, for one, I would really love to hear from any of you who've done that. Again, it's not too late to do that. But walking through setting a rule is really, really powerful for your own brain. And then if you've done that, there's a part of that worksheet to identify kind of what this conversation is, why this rule is crazy and you could never follow it. And I can really help you flesh out. Yes, there it is. I can help you flesh out the truth bombs to have handy in your brain to throw when that voice comes up. So this process of learning how to set rules, it really applies to anything. So if you do decide to follow a diet, like say you decide to do an 8-week challenge with Dina or with another group, or you want to join Weight Watchers and stick to it and lose 10 pounds, this is what you use in your brain for that as well. It works in conjunction to say, I'm going to join, I'm just using this as an example. I'm going to join Weight Watchers and I'm going to stick to my, I don't know what they use now, points.
I think it's a point system still.
Yeah, so I'm going to do that, and it's a reasonable diet. I'm going to be well fed. It's going to be nutritionally sound, and I'm going to follow. And just by saying that, you're going to hear that lizard brain say, like, oh, you've done it before, it failed, it's not realistic, it's, you know, all these things. Write those down, and you can start to combat those with truth bombs. So as you start that diet with Weight Watchers, you're armed with an arsenal of facts when it gets hard. Because we quit things when it gets hard, and this lizard brain comes up with brilliant reasons why you can't do this, and why this doesn't work, and why Oprah is stupid. You had a personal chef, you could do it too, but you don't, so we may as well binge eat.
And why it's so much easier for everyone else other than me.
Yeah, Dina owns a gym. It's so easy for her to work out. She's no problems. Life is so easy for everyone.
It's a lie.
Lizard. I mean, it's so seductive. And when it's hard, we want to go, brilliant. That lizard brain is the most brilliant thing. I've never heard anything so smart. I definitely need lemon Oreos. And so having this process kind of cemented with small things and building up into bigger parts of your life, now you can really feel empowered to do anything. Stick to any challenge, stick to any diet, because you are in control over this voice. When things get hard, you say, no, I want this. I'm going to endure this. So I would encourage you to consider broader applications to this, not just food, not just sugar, but your overall diet, your overall daily schedule, and working out. If you're having a really hard time getting exercise in when things are quarantined, or you don't feel safe going inside to a gym, what can you do? And how can you hold yourself accountable by making a rule around movement? Or maybe you have a step goal. Maybe you do an ab routine every day for 10 minutes. It's amazing how quickly we talk ourselves out of 10 minutes of activity. I mean, it's ridiculous. 10 minutes is nothing, and yet it's really hard to do something for 10 minutes every day. So this is a great place to start practicing a rule around something like that. It doesn't have to be big.
Yeah, because I'd love to encourage those that are watching or are going to watch this later. to take advantage of this opportunity, because sometimes it just takes the guidance of like working with someone like Kristen, who has gone through this process many, many, many times. I mean, and has tons of experience, to just run a scenario with her. I mean, this is just a great free opportunity to do that, because once you run through it once and it's personal for you, like we can talk scenarios all day long, but you might be on the other end going, well, ice cream's not my thing, or this is actually my thing, and this is why. And having the guidance, and it can be a phone call, it can be, just through Messenger with Kristen, but honestly, just taking 10 minutes and doing that, I really think it'll be helpful, because there is some method to my madness here. There's a reason that we have this challenge first before we do an upcoming challenge around food in general, like a meal plan and things like that. We do have our 8-week Back to the Basics challenge coming up again in the fall. So I really felt it was important for us to actually tackle some of the things that are more upstairs around making decisions around food. So there is a reason we're doing this now, because we are going to have a challenge coming up later. And I want you to feel successful in that challenge. And so this is kind of our foundation. This is our kind of ground laying mental challenge before we actually dive into a bigger food challenge. So I really, really encourage you to work with Kristen while this opportunity is here, and just go through the process, because once you go through once, the sheet might feel a little daunting, like, oh my gosh, I have to write it all out. Yeah, maybe once or twice, but then this starts to just be what happens up here, and you don't need to write it down, and you recognize it faster.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, I'm here to assist free of charge. You can message me. You can send me an email. I'll hop on a call with you. This is really, Dina can write the most amazing food plan for you, and we can have the most incredible, motivating challenge with free cars and vacations as gifts, which I heard is totally happening. But none of that matters if you get to week 3 every time and you quit. Understanding why that happens, understanding how you're going to not do that again, and you're going to see it through. So many people in so many gyms start an 8-week or a 6-week challenge, and in my last gym I was at, there was an 8-week challenge. There was 4 of them a year, and 100 people would sign up for them, and there'd be maybe 20 that finished it. What happens to those 80 people? It's very common.
Yeah.
And they all had the best intentions, and they wanted results. And somewhere along the way, the lizard brain won. And so learning before this challenge happens how to recognize that, so you can endure that entire time and be successful, that's the difference between the 80 that quit and the 20 who finished. And if you really want to change your body composition or your diet and lose weight and have a lifelong change, it really starts with your brain. And if you ask those 20 people who do finish and they were to tell you what their secret is, we could boil it down to something that would fit onto this sheet: that they made a decision, and that they didn't argue with themselves, that they were completely laser focused, and they had truth bombs to attack every time this voice wanted them to quit. And sometimes they fell down and they all got back up. So definitely dig in. This is a great opportunity. I have a lot of clients. I have a lot of great examples. If you tell me what your scenario is, I probably have a client that's dealt with that, and I can give you all kinds of suggestions for a rule that will work for you. A lot of times we can't think of it ourselves, and I'm here to help you with that. So
yeah, I would agree. I mean, sometimes when we first met, Kristen, I was like, gosh, I don't know. I don't even know where to start, because there's so many changes that I want to make, and I want to make them all at once so that I get the most beneficial outcome possible. But at the same time, I love that we are picking one right now, because one is almost hard enough to make sure that it works and it fits and it makes sense for you and it's manageable. Because the other thing about that, the 20, like if the 80% that fall off and the 20% that finish, I would argue that even half of them will fall back into the join the 80%, and there's really only 10% that actually figure this out. So if we can figure this out together, that will make those 8 weeks so much less, I don't want to say painful, but painful. Like it won't be as feeling as deprived. It won't be as an uphill battle as you think it's going to be if we work through some of these things on the front end.
Yeah, and I mean, you can make rules when this challenge starts. You can make rules for the challenge. When I did a challenge with my last gym, I won the challenge, and I didn't know about this at the time. But now I look back and say, oh, I get it. I made a rule without knowing I made a rule. And my rule was when I came home from work starving to death, and I was like, I can't possibly eat what's on that meal plan. My rule was I had to shut up, eat the thing, and then if I was still hungry, I could think about quitting. And I never quit because eating that thing, I was satisfied. I was over it. Emotions calmed down. I stopped arguing. I moved on. And that one rule got me through. And I had an amazing experience. And I actually won the challenge. Completely shocked myself. I didn't even know I was making that rule. But that was what was happening. And so you can make a rule like that that will guarantee you that you're in control. You can quit tomorrow if you want to. But first, you're going to do the thing in front of you and then decide. It's incredibly powerful when you put just little rules around whatever hard thing you're trying to do. So I'll be here for that too. I'm excited to find out what it is, and I'll be available for that too if anybody needs it. But avail yourself of this now, so that you're really mentally ready for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I don't know, Kristen, if we need to do a check-in or if we this week, or if we want to just open up the time to reach out to you. I know that there's a few that are participating that maybe haven't reached out to you yet. So I will be kind of nudging in my Dina way those to reach out to you. So and let me know what you think about a check-in, or if we just move forward with week 3 next week.
Well, I'd love to have a little incentive for all of you. Sometimes we all need a little kick in the pants to do what we know we want to do, because your lizard brain does not want you to make rules. Your lizard brain is fighting you. And so for those of you that have been watching or paying attention and thinking, this looks great, and you haven't done anything yet, part of it is because your lizard brain is like, yeah, let's avoid that. Because it's summer and it's fun, and we don't want to put rules down while we're having fun. It's finally summer. Well, if you will do the worksheet and fill out a rule and send me a message with that you made a rule. You don't have to share the rule with me, but that you made one rule and you committed to it. I'm going to put everybody's name in a little bundle, and next week I'm going to do a drawing, and I'm going to have a gift card.
Ooh.
For the winner. So if you want to get in the drawing for a gift card, to stick it to your lizard brain and also have a little incentive to win a gift card, I'm going to let you pick where you get your gift card and do a drawing. So
you know what, Kristen, I'm gonna double that, and I will contribute a gift card as well.
Awesome.
And I agree. And let's let the folks that win decide where they would like it to. So there's 2 winners next week.
Yes. So it's a perfect time. Get your printer out, print that out. Sunday, take a little time. Tell your lizard brain to shut up. Perhaps do it after you eat, so that you're really in control of what you want, and write a rule. And then so send me a message via Messenger. You should be able to get my information. Say, hey, I set a rule. I committed to it. I would love to know what your rule is, just because I'm curious. But you don't have to share it if it's too personal. And we'll do a drawing for now.
That sounds perfect. So we'll meet again next Saturday at 10. Expect a few nudges and updates from us this week, just to we'll do reminders about the gift card and the drawing, and some work that you can be doing to enter that. So exciting.
Yes, we're willing to pay people to get better,
It's amazing what we'll do.
Yes, well, tell your lizard brain to fight that. Like, well, lizard brain, you aren't going to give me anything, but Dina and Kristen are going to give me something if I do this.
Yeah, so. And there's these pair of maybe, I don't know, Zaya or Lulu pants that I'm wanting, and I would love a gift card for there.
There you go. Exactly. So you have nothing to lose except the shame blanket.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys watching. Please reach out again with any questions, and you have your to-dos on how to qualify for the 2 gift cards. So until then, happy writing.
Yes. Happy challenging yourself. Really, you versus you.
I know. All right, cool. Well, we'll check in next week at 10 o'clock.
Awesome. Have a good week, everyone.
Thanks. You guys too. Bye-bye.